Hello, everyone. I'm Meredith Volker, and welcome to Reclaiming Your Inner Goddess. Top experts reveal how to move through the pain and anger of heartbreak to unleash the goddess in you. I'm super excited today to introduce my guest, Dr. Patty Britton. Are you ready to reclaim your inner goddess? I want to share a little bit about Dr. Patty for those of you who are not familiar with her work. Dr. Patty is a clinical sexologist, sexuality educator, and the pioneer of sex coaching with top level credentials. As a well-respected world leader in sexology, she is an academic, author, popular speaker, trainer, and workshop leader, and hosts over 40 DVDs for couples sexual enhancement. She is a frequent guest on summits, national television shows, documentaries, live talk and news radio, and magazines such as Cosmopolitan, Men's Health, Women's Health, and Glamour. She has a private practice in Los Angeles and via Skype globally. Dr. Patty is the co-founder of Sex Coach U, the world's premier credentialing and training organization for sex coaching, and co-founder of sexologyu.com, where seasoned professionals learn how to integrate clinical treatment of sexual issues with caring, competency, and credentials. She and her partner, Robert Dunlap, host a weekly radio show at theboom.com featuring an array of guests who discuss all of life's issues surrounding happy aging. You can find her at drpattybritton.com. Welcome, Dr. Patty. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's so much fun to be here. It's such an important topic, especially for women, to know how to reclaim the essence of who they really are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get into it. My first question is kind of an obvious one. What does reclaiming your inner goddess mean to you?
Well, I do write books. I've written 5. And these questions are so broad and general. So I'm going to dive into aspects of them.
Perfect.
Because our inner goddess is really our essence of self. And the way that I frame it is when I train professionals through my online universities or live trainings or my one-on-one mentorship, what I like to train people about is that there really are 5 parts to our sexual self. There's the mind, the emotions, the body or the physical realm, energy and spirit. And I love that you're asking these questions about our inner goddess and that sense of empowerment and who we truly could be if we were fully realized as sexual beings as women. And that's why in my model, I integrate energy and spirit, because energy runs everything. And how we connect with our own life force energy, or chi, is part of our goddess self. You know that, right? And also our spirit is not just a spiritual pathway to realizing our sexual potential, but it's really the spirit or the essence of self. It's kind of like a candle and the flame has gone out and there's just that little bit of light that can reignite into a burning flame. And not to make a cliche about it, but that really is how our sexuality lives within us. And often I find women don't know how to open that up.
It's very true. Very, very true. Now, could you tell us a story about how you realized your own inner power?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't usually talk about myself, so this is really interesting.
But you had to realize some really good inner power to follow your vision that you have in life.
I did. And, I'm going to tell you a weird story about how I see empowerment and making conscious choice. And it's really the beginning of what launched my career and my vision for empowering women in particular. And that is that years ago, when I began in this field of sexology, the study of human sexuality, essentially, I was a rural outreach worker in New England, in a very small, poor state in New England. And I used to go and knock on doors of trailer park settings and people who lived in really poverty looking communities to bring them information and empower these women around their fertility. And when I saw the dramatic changes, I remember once going into a house where there were 3 generations of women living on welfare. And every single one of them had birthed children. And the youngest was 14. And I said, I really am here to bring you the message that you can control your fertility, that you can be in charge of your life, of your body, of your sexual wellness. And they said, well, we really don't want to hear that because we depend on the income that we get from having all these babies. And that was my turning point. And that's when I realized that I needed to become an advocate for positive sexuality, for sexual health and wellness, and for enabling women to find power in other ways than that particular story. I left in tears that day, and I left with almost like a vengeance in my mission to help people all around the world, which is what I do now by training people to do the kind of work that I do that empowers people to have sexual fulfillment and to talk the truth. I think that getting to the truth is so much about what it is that we need for our healing. And almost everyone that I have ever met has some story of their sexual wounding. And part of my mission is to help people kind of unlock and unblock those wounds. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
To share that one, but I have other.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And that's very powerful because when you start unlocking those and healing those wounds, it's you always start to own your sexuality. And that's a very powerful thing. It is.
And all of our sexual wounds, I want you all who are watching and listening today to know that you can overcome those wounds. You can heal those wounds, but you may not be able to do it alone. And that's why I'm training other sexologists and sex coaches around the world. And right now my trainings are in 54 countries and Puerto Rico. My little mission to like.
That you are a woman on fire with that mission.
I am, and I am not stopping yet. So
I love it. It's so needed. It's so needed. And you bring up such an excellent point of healing, and we are talking about reclaiming our inner goddess, from heartbreaks, traumas, losses. So how do we start to heal some sexual wounds, and what is the healing process like sexual healing?
Well, again, it's a big question, but let me see if I can kind of shave it down to how I work, because how I work is I'm kind of a shapeshifter. I kind of have this ability to match where my client is at energetically and to align with almost anyone. I don't think I've ever had someone as a client, except for maybe 2 people out of thousands, literally over 35 years plus, where it just wasn't really in alignment. It wasn't a fit. And I think because of missed expectations. But I think that being able to tell our sexual truth is essential, and getting to know who we truly are. And it's not an overnight fix. I'm going to say that, if I'm working with a woman who's 45 years old and never had an orgasm, and maybe comes from a background of wounding, what's going to happen is it's not going to be like, well, just, take this pill, which is the medical model, or just say this mantra and everything's going to be fine, because that's also not how that really works. But really working with a seasoned professional and doing your homework first. I think that most of my clients, and I love working with women, and I also love working with men and with couples. And so I don't have a favorite where I lean in to only women. But I do, as a female myself, I have a soft spot toward how difficult it is to be on that journey to be free. It's really a journey towards sexual freedom, freeing ourselves from shame, one of the toxic ingredients of what wounds us, freeing ourselves from all of that negative chatter in our head that, I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not sexy enough, I'm never going to be able to help my partner achieve his realization or her realization. And I think that actually that approach in mindfulness, being conscious and really getting to tune into ourselves, whether it's what we're telling ourselves, which is running all the time, or what we're feeling, again, those kind of toxic emotional states we can get in, whether we're feeling guilty. I feel guilty that I have a longing or a fantasy, like one of my recent couple clients, where she's really stuck in her marital relationship because she's always really longed to experiment with women. And there's something that stops her from wanting to take that next step. And he's an encourager. He's not saying, oh, no, that will threaten the relationship, which it can. But really, she's saying, oh, I don't know, I'm scared, I'm not ready. And so, that kind of emotional state is disabling. And having someone to help you kind of jump over that abyss is sometimes what's needed, but also priming the pump. And this is one of the biggest things that I think is really misunderstood today. And that is that the journey to sexual self-awareness is actually a journey of solo sex, of self-love, of masturbation. And I'm on a lot of these summits.
I love that you brought that up.
They're about love and about intimacy and the goddess, or they're about tantra or the divine. And I'm all about all of that. I have a model that is holistic. It encompasses from the medical side all the way to the divine and bliss and spirit. But at the same time, we really need to know our bodies, and we need to be okay with what we see in the mirror. And we need to know how our bodies work sexually, because how can you expect a partner to please you, to pleasure you, to get you to your perceived goal, whether it's an orgasm or not, if you don't know how your body works or functions sexually? So that's a very important element of being a goddess, for one thing, and being empowered and having the sex life that you want.
Yeah, it's true.
I see you agreeing.
Yes, I'm so glad you're bringing this all up. I am so glad, because there's so much shame around owning your sexuality and asking for what you want and knowing what you want. And it shouldn't be that way. It just should not be that way. I'm glad we're having this conversation to start changing that.
Good. And there's a distinction that I make with my clients and my students, that we as human beings, as human sexual beings, have a different set of wants versus needs versus fantasies. Fantasy does not mean that we want to make that a reality. In fact, one of the risks of enacting a fantasy is that you may lose the fantasy. You may have a fantasy about X, Y, or Z, and it's how you get orgasmic, or it's how you build arousal or ignite your desire. These are actually clinical sexological terms, sexual response cycle. And if you enact that fantasy, what may happen is you may go, yes, this is who I am. Like this woman I'm telling you about, and my couple I work with, where I perceive that she really has this bisexual authenticity about her. And it's just a fear that won't allow her to explore that, expand that repertoire. Oh, she really could be, with the permission and encouragement of her husband. That's really amazing. I say
that's like the ultimate opportunity right there.
Do you know how lucky you both are? So that's how I talk to my clients. But at the same time, if you don't really know how your own body works, and you do have a system that's kind of what you need to feel fulfilled, to feel safe, to feel love, to feel pleasure, to feel good sensation, if not to experience your orgasm, then that may be in the realm of your needs. It may be that you need to learn how to show or tell your partner, no. Don't go like this right on my clitoris when we first start making out or kissing deeply. That doesn't feel good. What I need is I need you to caress me. I need you to play with blah, 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 blah. We could go on.
Absolutely.
And that is a need zone or a need set that's quite different from what you want, because want is not what is essential for you to experience what it is that your body needs and does. Does that make sense? I differentiate those three things.
No, it makes complete sense. It really does. It does. And coming from that place of power and being able to say that and ask for that is huge. It really is huge.
I can tell you, but it's so profound and ubiquitous that women, and I think some men as well, they don't feel comfortable asking for what they want or need. And sometimes it's because their answer is, I don't know. And that's why it's so important to know yourself and to love and accept yourself. The only relationship, Louise Hay just passed away, the founder of Hay House, one of my absolute mentor authors. You Can Heal Your Life was on my bookshelf the week it was published many years ago. And I used it as a Bible because it was, every ailment, every breakdown in your body, every illness or injury had a metaphor that was an emotional state that was blocked, and then an affirmation to unblock that. She was a great influencer in my model, actually. And, you know, she was somebody who really set the bar high for women's empowerment, actually. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there are many role models that we can look to. One is a good friend of mine is Dr. Linda Savage, and wrote a really important book called Reclaiming Goddess Sexuality that I hope you'll all take a look at online,
Mm.
because she's someone who is able to take all of the history of goddess teachings from a very scholarly point of view and make it practical and make it something that resonates in today's culture, where in some ways, you know, women are competing to be like men, being
Yeah.
very gender biased,
Mhm.
and not really finding their own way of being in the feminine energy, in their goddess self, and
Yeah.
being equal in power in the marketplace, in the bedroom and or in the boardroom. Right? Don't you see
Yep.
that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that brings me to my next point is how do we start to awaken the feminine sexuality?
Well, you know, it's funny because I was just talking to another client about this the other day. Funny
You have
you
so
should
many great
ask.
resources.
I do. My clients they're my beloved inspirations. And one of the things that I teach and shared with my clients when it's appropriate is that the male energy is about action and the female energy is about receiving. And it
Mhm.
doesn't mean exclusively, and it has nothing to do with our gender identity. It has to do with an energy. It has to do with a polarity that we all pulsate and contain within ourselves and then can express outwardly. So being in that mode of receiving is very much about being in the feminine or the goddess energy. It doesn't mean we're not hot asses or badasses or going for what we want. I don't mean that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's an energy that we're willing to be accepting, and we're in a receiving state. And the irony is that pleasure, sexual pleasure in particular, is really available to anyone, whether you're in a giving or a receiving state. And this is one of
Mhm.
the foundations of sexology, known as sensate focus. We
Mhm.
teach our clients how to touch again, how to start from basics, to reignite
Absolutely.
its dead or a stale relationship, or to find new kind of landscape to
Mhm.
explore, to bring new fresh energy into the relationship. So that being in that connection with our ability and willingness to receive is part of what we need to access being in our goddess self.
That's so true. It's very true. Um, I would love to know how you use your own sex coaching. I would love that.
How I use it is, you know, in many years ago now we're talking maybe 25 years ago, when I was just finishing my doctoral studies, what happened is I was asked to give a speech in a very interesting conference on like health methodologies.
Hmm.
And someone knew that I had been founding this new way of being with clients and helping them overcome or resolve their sexual roadblocks, as I call them, or issues. And they said, would you come and give a speech? And I said, well, I would, but I need to think about how will I frame this model that I'm creating. And
Hmm.
it forced me to really make that model called the Meebs model. And
Ooh.
so, you know, sex coaching is really different from therapy because we don't process the family of origin issues. We don't process emotional states. We elicit, as coaching says, we elicit the greatness
Yep.
from our clients for the greatest good of our clients. And it's very goal directed. And that's kind of counterintuitive sometimes, because at the same time that I might be saying to a female who's non-orgasmic or pre-orgasmic, my preferred term, I may say to her, don't force it, don't pressure yourself, let go.
Oh,
Orgasm is about letting go.
it
When you
is.
let go, you can let orgasm. You
Mhm.
don't make orgasm happen within your body. And so there's something really important about moving through, as a sex coach, those 5 stages or elements of the sexual self: the mind, the emotions, the body, energy, and spirit. Figuring out what's in the way and helping our clients through very specific actions, which we call action steps,
Mhm.
do things. You know, so much of sex coaching and maybe good therapy is based on giving a home assignment to our clients so that they can practice what they're learning in session and apply it to themselves, and then come back and dialogue about how did that work or how did that
Yeah.
not work. And that's often a really pivotal part of the coaching process. The other thing is that as sex coaches, we can work virtually. That's what's so cool about it. I could be on a boat. I could be on a train. I could be was in Poland, for example, talking to my clients in Los Angeles by Skype if I'm awake at the time that they're up, with the huge time differences around the world. And we're not relegated to the strictures of licensure as many psychotherapists are. But the bad news is that most helping professionals in mental health care and physical health care really don't have any training in sexology. They're not comfortable talking about sex. They don't have the knowledge or the skills. That's why I founded sexologyuniversity.com.
I was just going to ask you to explain that platform to us because it's so powerful.
Because if you're already skilled in how to talk with a client, but you don't know how to talk about sex, to me, our sexuality is at the core of the self, the personal self.
Yeah.
If we cut out that donut hole and we go, oh, I can't talk about that, then how can you do a comprehensive job of helping your client to become whole? That's what
I was just going to say, you can't become whole if the donut's sitting over here.
You can't. It's
not
like
possible.
A massage therapist who has usually it's 3 donut holes, the 2 breasts and the donut holes. They go, oh, how does that feel? Oh, let me get to your legs. Oops, the sheet. So, I mean, it's a terror of having that conversation about sex. And I just got to the point because I trained so many professionals in my live clinical training events. I said, I got to bring this online, and I've got to bring in the best of the best in the world. And so there are 30 different faculty, not just myself, who train people at sexology.com and certify them. This is the other thing. Don't just trust someone who says, I'm a sexuality or sex expert. Because I had sex with 2,000 people, or because I've been a blogger for a year and I now know everything about sex. No, they don't.
No.
You need qualifications. You need credentials. And sex coach graduates are highly trained. They have a master's equivalent. And I'm really big on, that's why my mission is to train and really credential as many people as I can, because the need is so great. I travel the world teaching people, and everywhere I go, my heart bursts open with this compassion for how people are suffering around sexuality issues everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And so we need more people who are competent and caring and comfortable to open up that dialogue about sex. And we can all work together. That's the other message.
Absolutely. We certainly can. What a beautiful passion that you have. It is so needed in the world. It really is.
Thank you.
Now, I wanted to ask you one way you stay in your power daily.
Well, I think that having self-time, what I see, I have a lot of sexless couples who seek out my services as a clinical sexologist and sex coach because it is a pandemic. People aren't having a lot of sex. They think everybody else is having great sex.
I know. Why are we not having more sex? What is going on?
Well, you want me to tell you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please tell us that.
Because we are depleted, because we are not embodied, because we live in a virtual universe where we think, I'll show you, that this is real, that our communication, that constantly go on and that interfere with and interrupt the flow of life. Don't have an effect on our sexual expression. And I'm here to tell everybody's watching, you need to take EFAS. If you're in a relationship, even your relationship with yourself, and you're constantly allowing your life to be bombarded with the pings, the dings, the messaging. My phone is lit up as I've been talking to you for a very short amount of time, with calls, with texts, with messages, with the messenger. It's like, we have to be in charge of ourselves, because if I'm not in charge of myself, how I put my emphasis, where my attention and focus goes, where my positive intention is set, and how I manage and govern my energy, I'm going to lose power every minute of the day. So this goes way beyond our sexual power or our goddess power. And as women, we are socialized to be codependent, to be the last on the serving line, Like
Yes.
I take care of everybody else's needs, and then, oh, maybe at 11:24
Maybe.
p.m. at night, there might be a minute left for me.
Exactly.
Put yourself at the front of the line. That's really
Absolutely.
what I want to say.
Yes. And don't feel ashamed for doing it. Don't feel selfish for doing it, because you're so much better when you have
Yes.
your cup filled up and you're nourished to
Yes.
serve your family, serve your workplace, whoever else you're giving to. Give from that overflowing cup versus
Beautiful.
one that's empty, because
And
it's not
that's,
helping anybody.
you're so right. And, when it comes to sexuality, or it comes to living in general, it is the metaphor of the airplane and the oxygen mask. We
Yes.
need to take in the oxygen first. And we need to be givers to ourselves first, so that we have enough reserve, a great coaching term, living in reserve, so
Mm-hmm.
that we have the energetic reserve to be playful, to be in
Yeah.
the yes zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the feminine energy. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
I'm willing to receive. My
Yep.
sweetie is reaching over and giving a longer kiss than usual. Maybe the hand is sliding down. So if I'm in a yes mode, I have to have an energy reserve in order to respond.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. It does. It absolutely does. And don't underestimate the fact that they're not feeling that fact that you don't have that reserve. They can feel that energy. They can feel everything is energy, and they're going to respond to you the same way you're coming to them. And
Yes.
yeah, it creates, and now I can see why, people are just not having sex these days. Because if that's the energy that's circling around,
No time for sex. No time for
no,
sex.
nobody has time for anything these days. So
No, they
yes,
don't. No
sex
time to
is definitely
be.
up there.
And
Yes.
that's the other key, is stop doing and start being.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, could you tell us a resource that you have used to realize your own inner power?
Well, I love the power of affirmations, and I'm going back to Louise Hay again because she's on my mind. The affirmations are really setting an intention as though it's already realized. And so, for example, this is a really crazy story. I was living in Manhattan, and I was wanting to relocate from one apartment to another, and I had an index card, and I wrote on it, I, Patty, now have an affordable, beautiful, light, one-bedroom apartment in this one block in New York City, where nothing was available, nothing was affordable. And I mean, it was just this crazy pipe dream, so to speak. And 1 week later, one of my best friends who lived on that street, this is Spring Street in Soho, said
Oh,
to
nice
me,
area.
"Hey, Patty, I don't know if you're thinking of moving, but I've got a friend who's going to live in Jamaica for 2 years and is subletting her apartment, and it's right across the street." And I was like, oh! And so I have many people. Index cards are now old school. We now have
Yes.
cyber versions of that. I
Uh-huh.
also believe in using dream boards or vision boarding. And
Mm,
it's very similar to that. It's a visual depiction of your intention and what you would like to manifest. And
yeah.
every year, around New Year's Day, I do one of those, and then I keep them, and I love to look back and see what I have manifested or attracted into my life, and how powerful our thoughts really are.
It's
Everything
true.
is about our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
energy.
Yes, it
That's what
really is.
creates reality.
Yeah, it's
You can
true.
have
But
them.
yeah, I know. I know. I'm glad you brought that up, because our thoughts really do create our reality, and
Yes.
you gotta be mindful of them, because good or bad, they're very, very powerful.
What you tell yourself is true for
It
that.
can work both ways. It
Yes,
can.
yes. And be
And that
careful
comes
what
with
you
that
ask for, because you're going to get it. If you
yes.
focus, keep focusing.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it does go both ways. But female sexual empowerment is really one of my missions in life.
I love
We
that.
all deserve to be empowered. We deserve to be fulfilled and enriched. And we deserve to ask for what we want and need.
Yes.
I really want to say that.
Yes.
That's what a goddess would do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. A goddess asks for what she wants.
And act like a goddess. So make sure
Yes.
you take that responsibility as well. So you can act
Absolutely.
like a goddess. It doesn't mean you have to have henna all over your hands,
No.
or, a crown of roses or lilies. I
No.
don't mean that, but I mean, walk your talk,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to show up in that way, and the universe is going to respond to you in that way.
And the universe responds very powerfully when you do
Yes,
that.
it does.
It really does. Now, I've loved having you here today, so I'm sure our viewers would love to be able to connect and engage with you more. So tell us how they can do that.
Well, they can go to my primary website, which is my name, drpattybritton.com. And also they can visit sexcoachu.com or sexologyu.com, where you can find out more about my programs. And on all of our websites, we have lots of great resources, including my book selection. I handpick books that are important to read and know about for my trainees, and also movies that are relevant, like Hollywood type movies. So there's a campus store you can go check out at sexcoachu.com. It's lots of fun, and you might see some things you'd be surprised about.
What a great resource. What a great resource. It is. And now finally, I wanted to ask you about this free gift that you have for our viewers today. If you could tell them a little bit about it and how they can use it.
Sure. Well, some years ago, I was privileged, and I really do mean that.
I love that word, privileged.
I mean that, to have the ability to design a 3-part DVD program for couples sexual enhancement around the teachings of the Kama Sutra. So I went furiously digging into all of the old books on Kama Sutra and different interpretations of it. And I came up with a program design, and then I was able to lead a live workshop for 3 real-life couples and go and take them on a journey, each of them individually with the different lessons. And out of that came my ebook, For Her Pleasure, which was based on the second DVD, For Her Pleasure. And it's really about the importance of females knowing their own bodies, a message I've already shared with you, and their partners to know females' bodies and responsiveness, and look at it from a goddess perspective. Look at it from a sacred perspective. I don't mean religious, but I mean sacred, like honoring her.
Yes.
And it's interactive, so you can take a look at the ebook. It's not a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And it will guide you through some of the really ancient, tried and true teachings from the Kama Sutra that really apply today.
They do. They really do. That is such an amazing gift. They're gonna absolutely love that. What a great way for these ladies to get back in their bodies and start loving themselves and owning.
Being in your body. The key, get in your body, get out of here, go into the body.
Exactly. Exactly. This has been so powerful, Patty. Thank you so much. Is there anything still on your heart that you want to share with us? Something I may have missed or something you want to leave our viewers with that you feel is important?
I do feel I'd like to share that my partner passed away not very many weeks ago and was the other voice on our weekly radio show, theboomdoctors.com. And so for all of you who are listening who may be in the golden years or wondering about aging and sexuality and other things as well, because I am a boomer and I'm an advocate for boomers having a boomalicious life.
That is fantastic.
Radio shows, those archives are still there. And I don't think I'll be rebooting that project after Robert's passing, but it's all there for you to listen to, and it's really, really great information. So that's the thing I want to say, and I want to say that we can get over anything in life. You know, going through my own process right now, it's so beautiful to refocus on what really is my mission and what matters, and that's connecting with all of you and with you, and how delicious it is to be able to really focus on the continuity of women in their power. And I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Patty. This has been so empowering to all of us, and your work and your mission and your vision is just going to improve the world so much. This is so needed. Thank you for what you do for all of us. Thank you.
My pleasure.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, your generosity, and sharing all your great experience with us.